UWC has a very interesting history. It started as an apartheid legacy institution destined just for people of a certain ethnic group, namely colored people at the time, as they were classified, and only for certain disciplines. So you were supposed to be a teacher, preacher, etc. Other disciplines such as medicine and engineering and all of those things were not destined for UWC. But what was very interesting in the following season, the next 10 years of UWC, was a growing resistance to the ideology that actually led to this institution being established. And so we see a rise of black consciousness and a resistance of the institution being only for colored people. And so in the 80s, that resistance grew. The university became known as the intellectual home of the left. And so it created for itself an identity of almost what people would call hardigheid. You know, that chutzpah, that not just taking anything just on face value. And one saw the rise of that quite profoundly in the 80s. In the 90s, I would characterize that season as the period of preparation for the next leadership in the country. So a lot of the exiles came to UWC. It was the time when the Constitution of South Africa was drafted at UWC. The real input into the creation of a new democracy in South Africa happened at UWC. It was actually a sad period because then after 94, even the former rector, he was taken up into government, Prof. Gerwel. And that was a period of loss because there was intellectual drain. Student numbers dropped to about 8,000, if I remember correctly. And the university was practically bankrupt in the early 2000s, which led to a period of where the university had to be recapitalized. And it's amazing to see then in the later 2000s until where we are now, the total consolidation of the university firstly, and now the university becoming a research-led teaching university that makes a difference in the country, in the continent, and globally. In recent conversations that I've had, I had a whole series of courageous conversations with alumni over the period of 2017, 2018. And I asked them, so what do you think the intellectual identity of UWC was at the time when you were there? And what about that intellectual identity was so important to you that you think we should hold on to it, and what should the future be? So what do we take into the future? And one of the elements that came out the strongest was that UWC was always a university where social justice matters. It's embedded in our DNA and how we deal with our communities, how we engage with our communities.